or strictly on our own. Doctors are on our own. We are constantly under the supervision of the federal government. As we've said before, we do have an MOU with the federal government, and they supervise what we're doing. So you are in good hands. Now, in our past episodes, we've talked about how global decline is the word I used. Global decline, how things begin to deteriorate after the age of like 30. Things begin to go downhill, or they maintain for a while, and then you kind of realize that, well, you're not the man that you used to be. And of course, if you deny that, your wife will probably tell you too that you're not the man you used to be. But never fear. That's what we're trying to deal with today, and I'm kind of giving you a hint into what we will be talking about, other than, of course, the fact that you're reading it behind me. There are probably, I don't think there's any other area than in this particular area we're going to talk about, where men, especially black men, pride themselves in being able to perform well. And at our foundation, we work with older people, older couples, and others, and we help them in terms of how to improve sexual function. It's just like that. We can always fix it. Not always, but most of the time we can fix it. And it's always between me, and we try and keep it really, really confidential because, of course, it's a very personal thing. Now, it wasn't until recently when I met our guest today that I realized that this is not something we just keep under wraps. It's something that we are beginning to see. Well, it has always been there, but I think more and more now we're beginning to see has global, if not national, significance. And people are really, really getting really, really concerned about it. So we are going to be talking about midlife crisis, its effects, and its legal implications. And I would really encourage you to call your friends and family and come on and sit down and watch this program, because I think it's really, really, really important. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. I'm here with Mr. Chike Obieli, who is a legal practitioner based in Abuja and an expert in arbitration and conciliation. Now, Mr. Chike, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It's really an honor and a pleasure to have you on.
My pleasure to be here.
And thank you for making the time. I know we've tried this a couple of times.
Yes, yes.
Well, so I think we're going to have a good time today, because I think based on our discussions and from the feedback we've been getting, even before we came on show, there were executives who were saying, well, listen, we need to talk about this and we need to talk about that, when they heard about the title. So let's take you back to that other time when we were talking, on that evening. And of course, part of your portfolio is you deal with divorce cases and settlements. And you gave me this striking, I think it's a shocking statistic about divorces. Can you remember?
Very well. The issue of divorce in our courts and in Nigeria generally got to grow in terms of certain crises that people couldn't manage again. I believe seriously that certain crises, which is referred to as midlife crisis, that start from the age 30, 40 and above, are certain occurrences that people didn't expect. And when certain situations arise, when they could not meet the best expert to advise them on the best solution and the best approach to those issues, they begin to take their problems to people who may not be able to solve certain problems for them. So it results to people getting to the court asking for either separation of their marriages, or in certain occasions they will ask for completely dissolution of that marriage. But in any event, when these matters come to court, the court also provides a situation for conciliation and reconciliation of both parties, where they will sit down and even look at whether, why they are in court, will their being in court solve their problem? Will their being in court also aggravate their problem? Particularly, I think it's section 11 of the Matrimonial Causes Act, which provides for conciliation. It particularly says that it is the duty of any court where issues of matrimonial dissolution of marriage appears, that the court should make it a point of duty and give consideration to reconciliation of both parties. Now, the judge on his own, looking at the evidence before the court and all the proceedings before the court, can advise both parties to go for conciliation. Why is this conciliation necessary? It is necessary because at that point, that is where you meet the expert who tell you exactly what you need to do. When people come to court, they're looking at the symptoms of their problem without looking at the foundational cause. When a midlife crisis occurs and the man can no longer perform, his pride may not allow him to discuss it with the wife. And when they have stayed apart, and the law also says that a situation whereby somebody feels that they have not been having serious conjugal right between both parties, they have the right to approach the court for the solution of same marriage. But in conciliation, what do? They are referred to experts who give them the best advice on how to solve their problem. That the solution to their problem is not most times the dissolution or the separation which they come to court to ask for. That is the provision of the law.
All right. Let's now address the elephant in the room. I know we've talked about conciliation, we've talked about marital issues and all the separation. The elephant in the room, shall we just spell it out?
Yeah, we can go ahead and spell it out.
Do you want me to give you the honors? Or would you want the honors?
I don't know what you mean by the elephant in the room, but if I will have, if my mind speaks in with you, I think it comes to a situation where there are sexual challenges, when a man cannot live to his optimal ability in the bedroom with the wife.
In other words, as one executive called it, sexual male non-performance.
Exactly.
Can it be any more explicit than that?
It cannot be, because actually even in our court, in most occasions when people come to court to give evidence and they begin to hide under the canopy of we have a problem, the problem looks like this, and begin to paint a different picture of what the problems are, the court normally say, speak it the way it is. Sexual problem and sexual challenges as in certain occasions reason for people to dissolve their marriages. Now, there is one ground for dissolution of marriage. One is in the cases of adultery.
Okay.
The other one, but the major ground is that the marriage has broken down irretrievably. What are the factors that made the marriage to break down irretrievably? These are facts that you have to put before the court. One is adultery. One is sexual non-performance, like you said.
That's a ground?
It's a ground.
It's a ground, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So when there is a sexual hardship and an individual no longer enjoy the companionship that she expects in marriage, it comes with a lot, which is what we consider as midlife crisis. It comes with frustration, it comes with anger, it comes with reaction, it comes with different emotional threats that those individuals did not see at the beginning of their marriage. So the effect and the rippling effect is that the reaction is that I no longer want this marriage. But the problem is the man could not perform.
But they don't usually come out and say that.
This is the challenge. The challenge here now is, how does the court assist for those people who do not want to open up to say it and they want to dissolve their marriage? The court will simply refer them to the conciliators, experts, and in certain occasions, the judge himself, who is sitting in court, can ask questions, examine and interview these people, and even go into conciliation with them in his chambers. We go that far. In the course of that conciliation, they are referred to medical experts who award their salt in those fields. I think this is where your profession can also help people who are having this kind of challenges.
Yes.
Once the court refer them to medical experts who understand that there are certain hormonal changes that also come with midlife crisis, that the doctors can address, maybe by assistance, maybe by drugs, maybe by whatever means an expert can look at it and assist those people. The court also encourages it.
And you bring up a good point. I'm going to quickly do a plug-in for what we do as well. You said it just right. The hormonal the word is dysregulation, in that what used to be your teens, your early 20s, your sex was not a big problem. You wake up in the morning as a man and you wake up with a big you know what, and you think of, you see a pretty lady passing by, eventually your body gets hard and all that. That doesn't happen as much in your 30s and 40s, and you're not able to, sometimes you're not even able to get an erection. Sometimes you're able to get an erection, but you're not able to keep it for more than 2 minutes or so. And they call that the 1 minute wonder in some cases. But it's not just about men, really. I also know that in women too, and I think we should address this. Sometimes the man may be willing, but the woman may not be willing because she just does the hormones again will not make her want to have the sexual impulse. But from what our discussion was, it seemed like it was more in the man's case, the man not being able to perform, and this was causing stress mainly on the woman's side. And in the past, and let me take this to a little bit. In the past, this was not a ground at all. People, women will just, you know how it is now in Africa. They say just for the children's sake, just even if nothing is happening, even if the man is beating you, just for the children's sake, stay in the marriage and just enjoy it and be a good, happy housewife. But what you are saying now, and from our discussion, you are saying that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yes, it's no longer the case due to awareness, due to exposition, and due to people having been able to access certain information through the media, through the internet, just like we are doing now, trying to educate people that there are better solutions to their problems. You know, in most circumstances, when people get wrong advice to a particular problem, it can lead to another crisis. When you are walking out of a midlife crisis, you're looking for a solution, it can move you into another problem. A woman that maybe no longer feel the way she feels about the husband, about their companionship, I think what they need to work on is their psychology, or the psychology of their relationship, where both parties look at themselves about those things that made them look good and attracted to each other initially. But looking at the level of dissolution of marriages, the level of divorce that we experience now, I think most times is the women who most time open up to tell you, I'm no longer interested, the man is becoming very hostile, the man is no longer performing, the man is becoming another man except the man are married, at the exception of the marriage. So the sexual challenge is put at the back door, not discussed, but the symptoms, which the reaction of the man and his attack, his violence, is what is brought on the table or the floor for people to see.
You bring up some very important points, but we've been told we need to take a break now, so we will take a short break and we will be right back. Okay, welcome back. Information from the legal fields, legal professionals, what they're sought. And basically what I've heard is that over 50% of all divorce cases in Nigeria have at their root male non-performance. That's striking. Chike, what do you have to say about that?
The data available may be so, but you know, the challenge with Nigeria is that we have some cultural problem and cultural issues. And most people will not want to share this. But if you ask privately and consult people privately, you will understand that the major challenge why most people walk up to the court and ask for the dissolution of their marriage, on some cases they ask for separation. Separation is a situation where both parties stay apart for some time for them to come back. But in dissolution of marriage is a complete breakdown of marriage, like I said before. The challenge and the cultural background of individual will not allow him to tell the court that both parties no longer have their conjugal rights. And most time it is either that the man can no longer perform out of pride. He may not explain to the wife what the challenges are, and she will actually withdraw from the wife. And the law allows, when conjugal rights and marriages are not consummated, the law may permit you to dissolve your marriage when you push the facts before the court, and the court considers it right in the circumstance.
So eventually this comes to light.
Exactly. They will always hide it from the beginning. They will always keep it away. And most divorce cases you see, instead of people coming to court to give evidence, they consent to the dissolution of the marriage and they separate.
Now, sexual function has been considered by medical science one of the most pleasurable experiences known to man. And so obviously one can understand if that consummation and that experience is not being had. It seems from what you're saying that while it's there in the background, it's usually too late that by the time the papers are signed and the ink is dry, people separate. Meanwhile, the original problem was never really addressed like it should. So are you saying that at some point, the lawyers or the people handling the case, once it's taken to legal profession, need to have this at the back of their mind so they can start to investigate at an earlier stage? Should the judge begin to ask this at an earlier stage? In other words, should she be asking, should the question come up, is this man satisfying you sexually? Let's forget about all the fights and all the arguments and the financial issues and all those things. Should they ask at the very beginning if the sexual, the marital experience of sex is being fulfilled? Is that a question that should be asked at the very beginning?
To my mind, it is not in the place of the judge or the lawyers to do the case of the opposing parties.
Okay.
When you take an interview from a client and you ask them some fundamental questions, and it is revealed to the lawyer or the individual taking the brief that the cause of the problem is actual non-performance of the man or the woman or both sides, that is the reason why they really want to dissolve their marriage. I believe that every professional should know how best to approach issues that come before him or her. One, we may not understand that being a professional is not all about the financial gain or the pecuniary gain that comes from you. It is also your ability to live above board in terms of performing your duty. A lawyer who sees that that is the challenge of the individual, I expect that he should advise both parties or the individual that consulted him to go to a medical expert who will help them resolve the problem, and not to take up the matter as a matter that should go as a reason for dissolution of marriage.
So you're basically saying that the lawyer should put above his need or his desire for monetary gain and say, please, you people, first of all, I have a good doctor or a good psychologist, a good counselor that they can go to and talk about these things some more. And if you feel that it's still an issue, and if this medical professional can't handle it for you, then you can come back and we can proceed with the divorce deliberations. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Even if you understand the nature of the profession, whether you go to court or you don't go to court, that does not stop you from putting up your bill to a client that have consulted you.
Right.
So it does not put aside the fact that financial gain should be totally annihilated in the course of performing your duty.
Right.
Now, if after the lawyer has given an expert opinion, there are certain circumstances where the lawyer gives a good advice on how to resolve the problem, to consult an expert, and the individual who has briefed the lawyer will insist that he wants this dissolution of the marriage. Now that takes to the next stage of the matter being in court, of what we call, like I said earlier, compulsory reconciliation. If in the compulsory reconciliation, like I said, is provided under section 11 of the Matrimonial Causes Act, there are three ways compulsory reconciliation should be done. One, when the judge finds out that in the course of the proceeding that there is need for parties to be reconciled, he said that the judge can adjourn and ask both parties to go and seek for reconciliation. Secondly, the judge himself can ask questions, interview them in chambers, and see possible means of reconciliation. But the danger in this is, after the judge has gone into the reconciliation, the judge will not sit on that case again unless both parties agrees that the judge will continue with the case. The third stage, which is the C of section 11, is the judge can appoint a reconciliator who are going to reconcile both parties. There are professional reconciliators, though not known well in Nigeria, but abroad and some other places, you see people who are experts in different parts of reconciliation. While you are doing this reconciliation, you are bound to explain to them that the challenge they have to face is to get a medical an experienced medical expert who is going to solve their problem and not necessarily going into that. When they explore that option and it works for them, they will both understand that seeking for medical help, psychological help to treat their emotional stress and trauma will be better than dissolving the marriage.
Okay, good. So there are checks and balances. Now, we're going to assume that this is the case. These checks and section A, B, C are followed in most cases, right?
Exactly.
So, if they are followed, does that help in your experience? And I know you're bound by clients' confidentiality, lawyer-client confidentiality. But in your experience, do you see some reversal when that is handled?
Yeah,
Do people change their minds, in other words,
there
afterwards?
are two ways to it. In most experience I've gathered in the course of my duty as a lawyer, I found out that most women likely seek for solution to the problem and look for medical expert and opt to go for a medical solution to their problem. But
The men,
the African thing, the pride, the ego, for them to calm down and accept that is their fault.
Yeah.
Secondly, that I should be exposed to these certain informations about my personal life and being discussed an issue. The man most times decline some of this advice, and but it's our nature in Africa. What can we do?
What can we do?
We found ourselves in it.
So I think we're going to have to come back and really see what other solutions we can, because it's a big problem. It's a big problem. Even when it comes to psychological help too, even apart from the sexual aspect, we think about psychological issues, and like I've mentioned several times before, in organizations, international organizations, people go to the psychiatrist is available on grounds. But there's only the expatriates who go for consultation. The others, the Nigerians, even if they have a problem, they never go there. So the psychiatrist only ends up seeing the white folks and the other countries. So it's a big problem. I think hopefully we might be able to address that. Well, folks, you can see that there's a lot to be said on this topic, and so we will have to continue this discussion next week. But in the meantime, I just want to say a big thank you to Chike. Thank you so much, sir, for making this time to do this. Lots of valuable information. Hope you can make it again next time.
I will try my best.
Good. So, folks, remember, health is a large word. It's as you can see, it affects so many different things. So it's important that you learn how to take control of your health, because it's in your hands. We will see you again next week. God bless.